For most parents, the birth of a first child is a magical moment filled with joy, friends, and family. The day Shelly Cawley gave birth to her baby should have been one of the best days of her life. Unfortunately, it would be the worst, as she and her husband faced a life-threatening reality that would tear their world apart. You won't believe this story. For Shelly and her husband Jeremy, a baby was not exactly in the plan. Living in Concord, North Carolina, Shelly was working towards becoming a nurse, and her husband was a director for the YMCA. However, life was about to take an unexpected turn when Shelly discovered she was pregnant. Despite not planning the pregnancy, both Shelly and Jeremy were over the moon with excitement. They immediately began making the proper preparations, such as putting money aside, purchasing supplies, and attending weekly birthing classes. When their child came, they wanted to be 100% ready. Shelly and Jeremy were determined to do a natural birth without using medications or unnecessary procedures. Sadly, their plan was not meant to be. At 8 months, Shelly began to experience complications in her pregnancy, which would lead to her developing a blood clot in her leg. To say Shelly was devastated would be an understatement. Hoping to control the clot, Shelly was put on blood thinners, hoping it would break up. However, time was not on the young mother's side as her water broke ahead of schedule. Realizing the danger, Jeremy rushed his wife to Carolina's Medical Center Northeast. Despite the stress, both parents were excited to meet their child. Unfortunately, after Shelly was admitted to the hospital, the pregnancy did not progress. She was diagnosed with preeclampsia and liver disease, which can be life-threatening. On top of that, her blood pressure was through the roof. With Shelly's life hanging on a thread, the doctors rushed her to the operating room to perform an emergency C-section. Realizing things were going very wrong, Shelly began to worry. Shelly revealed to the Washington Post, "I was telling the doctors that I was scared I wasn't going to wake up. To this day, I don't know why I have that feeling. I guess it was some sort of sense that something was going to go wrong, a hunch, because they treated everything throughout my pregnancy just fine." Thankfully, Shelly and Jeremy's daughter, Rylan, was delivered safely on September 4th, 2014, weighing 7 pounds and 11 ounces. Even better, she was completely healthy. There were no complications whatsoever. Unfortunately, for Shelly, things were not looking good. Jeremy was given Rylan to hold while the doctors rushed away with Shelly. At this point, Jeremy didn't even realize his wife was in trouble. They just told me that Shelly would be in recovery, and it would be a little bit before she reunited with us. Sadly, the reality of the situation was quite grim. Fluid had begun to fill her lungs, and her blood clot had broken free and moved into her respiratory system, resulting in a fatal pulmonary embolism. And this wasn't even the worst of it. As time passed, Shelly's blood pressure fell dramatically, her heart rate skyrocketed, and she was put on a ventilator to breathe. This all resulted in the new mom slipping into a coma. The doctors knew the options were limited, and many feared she would not survive. The doctors hoped that the ventilator would help stabilize Shelly's condition and get her to a place where she could breathe again. Sadly, it didn't seem to work, and the medical team scrambled to come up with new ideas to try. In a last-ditch effort, the medical team decided to try skin-on-skin contact with Shelly's daughter, Rylan. Placing the baby on Shelly's chest, she was prompted to cry. The hope was that Shelly would hear her and begin to fight to live. Unfortunately, no one knew if it would work, so a waiting game began, with the hopes that she would somehow start to turn around. We didn't know how she was going to make it, and she had no interaction with her child. Nurse Ashley Manis said to the Washington Post, "If that was going to be it for her, we wanted to be able to tell the baby, your mom held you." Thankfully, the skin-to-skin contact with Rylan began to work, and doctors noticed a significant change in her vital signs. Refusing to give up on his wife, Jeremy made sure Rylan and Shelly spent time together daily. After a week of therapy, something amazing happened. Shelly finally woke up. She recalls the experience as one that was weird, to say the least. It would be only a year later that Shelly would graduate from nursing school and return to work at the place where her life was saved. She admits that a near-death experience changed her perspective on work and life.